And yes, so a lot to get through on this evening's programme. We are going to start with Gaelic games, and delighted to welcome to the programme now RTE a commentator and a columnist with the Limerick Leader. That's Martin Kiely, who joins us on the line. First of all, Martin, many thanks for taking the call this evening.
Thank you very much indeed, Gavin.
Martin, we'll start with yesterday's action in Semple Stadium. Thurles, of course, Limerick retaining their Alliance National Hurling League title and securing a Munster semi-final berth with Tipperary 36 points to 123 victors over Clare in Thurles. First of all, Martin, you were in there yesterday. Maybe just give us a feeling of what it was like walking into an empty Semple Stadium, and I suppose so little crowds around the square in Thurles, which we associate I suppose with big Munster Championship days. A sort of a strange atmosphere, but then again I suppose good to have a championship to look forward to.
Well, I suppose it was great to have a game to look forward to, but if it was not what we know as normal, in fact it was anything but normal. You know, I was in Thurles from about 10:30 yesterday morning, and just to see the square, to see Hazel's Hotel completely locked up, to see all of the things that we would normally associate with the local shops, the people that would be selling on the corners and stuff like that, that wasn't there. To walk up to the stadium completely empty. You know, you could park your car wherever you liked. There wasn't a problem in the world. And then when you enter the stadium, it was a complete vacuum. A vacuum of, you know, no roar of the crowd. The teams came out. They did their warm-up. It was like just it was a club match. And, you know, they did their warm-up in the stadium, which, you know, was interesting in its own because mostly it would be done in Dr. Morris Park. And, you know, try as you might, it was really, really difficult to try and get into the game. As somebody working at the game, it was actually quite difficult because the crowd plays such a huge part in the entire event as an entertainment event, and that wasn't there. But look, as you said at the start, Gavin, it was good that we had a match.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the important thing. And Limerick, I suppose, going from where they left off earlier on in the year, Martin, of course, many people's tip for the All-Ireland title in 2020, this Winter Championship. But to shoot 36 points, of course, you couldn't but be impressed by their performance yesterday, particularly, I suppose, in the second half, they really drove it on.
Well, I suppose what they had, Gavin, really over Clare was that they had a bench, they had a stronger bench, and it was a much better team performance than Clare. Clare were really dependent on Tony Kelly. Gave a masterclass, scoring 17 points in total, 12 up to half time. Limerick found it extremely difficult to contain him. He moved a huge amount around midfield. And, you know, I think if you were analysing it correctly, you would say that the Limerick midfield pair of Cian Lynch and Will O'Donoghue, they didn't have their greatest days, but overall as a team, Limerick had a very good day. To shoot 36 points is a huge score. But just like, you know, in previous, you know, over the last couple of years, for a team that handles so much ball, they don't score a lot of goals, and they didn't get too many goal-scoring chances yesterday.
Yeah, so it's a fair point indeed, I suppose. But they'll say, I suppose, you know, shooting that sort of points, and when you can shoot from range, Martin, they'll probably take that. But just come back to Tony Kelly there, you alluded to that. You know, just a real masterclass yesterday. He was buzzing around, you know, great, I suppose, when he gets on the ball. And I suppose from Clare's point of view, the disappointing thing was that it was just kind of a one-man show, really. And, you know, they'll probably have a lot of questions, I suppose, after yesterday. Martin, of course, Brian Lohan, in his first season as well. A lot of people say maybe they're in a period of transition.
Well, I'd say Clare are definitely in a period of transition, and they were in a period of transition long before this year. And I think they really haven't developed or built on the successes of the past. And I think overall, you know, a lot of counties have moved forward with really, really good underage structures. I'm not so sure that that's in place in Clare. Do they have the resources to do that? It's easy to say, go do it, but you need resources to make it happen. And I think it might prompt a bigger question and a bigger view with the whole situation within Clare hurling. They are producing good underage hurlers. It's what happens when they come to senior level. And I think Brian Lohan, he's starting. You know, he started yesterday's game minus 5 or 6 of last year's setup for injuries and one thing and another. So I had heard all week going towards the game that people are saying Limerick will win by 10 points. And that's a big statement to make, particularly when it's Limerick and Clare, because they're such near neighbours and had great battles down through the years. But that's exactly how it turned out. Limerick had a stronger team, and they pulled away in a canter, really. That Clare goal from Ryan Taylor gave them a bit of a chance, but really it was the last kick and Limerick just ran out easy winners from there on.
Yeah, very convincing in the end. You just look at that half forward line there of Garrod Hegarty, Martin 5 from play, Tom Morrissey even replaced later on, chipped in with 4 as well, and Kyle Hayes seemed to be back to his brilliant best on the 40 as well. And amazing, I suppose, that they get the ball so deep, Martin, and then can still, I suppose, get the wherewithal to get on the end of these moves and then finish as well. So that half forward line, I suppose, along with the half back line, really impressive yesterday.
Yeah, well, it's at a half forward line. Garrod Hegarty, for a big man, I think you could see he has great hands. He scored a couple of points from very difficult angles yesterday, and I suppose the big thing about him is that when he gets the chance, he's able to take it. Kyle makes a lot of runs, works very hard deep, but he's not as proficient in front of goal as Morrissey or Hegarty, but at the same time he's playing a crucial role. Look, they'll move forward. They have only a few days to think about it. This championship is going to be over before we know it, and I think next weekend really is a feast of hurling, given that you've four major hurling games taking place between Saturday and Sunday.
Absolutely, yeah. It's certainly one to whet the appetite ahead of the weekend, and I suppose leads us in nicely. We'll touch on the Limerick tip game first, of course, before we mention Waterford Cork, of course, which is the one we're really looking forward to down here. But Limerick having that white heat of championship battle, 70 minutes into the legs and into the bodies, Martin, would that be maybe an advantage to them heading to Páirc Uí Chaoimh to take on Tip next weekend?
I nearly have to say that having coped with the surroundings, I think, is as important as the match, Gavin.
Right. Okay. Very good.
Just having just kind of knowing what to expect. Whereas Tip are going to arrive in cold. Now, do I expect Tip to be hopping out of their skin? Yes, I do. But I think it can take a while to come to terms with what's going to visit them down in Cork next weekend. I think this is going to be. I think it's going to be a very, very high scoring game, and I think it's a hard one to call because Tip are coming in with a very, very strong outfit as well. They will see potential maybe of going at that Limerick half back line, going at the Limerick full back line a bit because of injuries and one thing and another. I think better forwards will create more chances than Clare created yesterday in hurlers.
Yeah, a lot of people mentioning that afterwards, Martin, that maybe the Limerick full back line is a little bit suspect there, of course, without some key players, and maybe Barry Nash not used to playing corner back, but is that maybe a line that if Tip can get quality ball into the likes of Callan and John McGrath inside, that they could profit from that?
Well, they have the players to hurt you. Make no bones about that. They have the guys that can hurt you, and they if they get half a chance, less than half a chance, they will go for it, and that's what determines the good players, to the really exceptional players. So McGrath is a really good hurler. Had a very, very good run in the club championship. Callan, I know, has had a struggling with a back injury for the last number of weeks. So how he has got over all of that and what state he'll be in when he gets to Páirc Uí Chaoimh next weekend, I expect he will be okay. But I think if Liam Feely, and you can be sure he was, and he'll look at it several times more this week, the area he will be going after is putting that ball in straight down in the Limerick full back line and see what happens from there. But it promises to be a really good game. There is no doubt whatsoever about that. I think the fact that Limerick have played a match, as you rightly pointed out, will definitely stand to them.
That's Sunday afternoon down there on the banks of the Lee. Before that, of course, Semple Stadium back to Thurles on Saturday for Waterford and Cork in the opening semi. Martin set to renew that great rivalry, I suppose, and that'll be, I suppose, the same problem, I suppose, for Waterford and Cork will be encountering, but I suppose they haven't had a game, not a lot of form to go on, and I suppose Waterford, have their injury doubts and concerns, of course, with Pádraig Manny, Neil Montgomery and Conor Gleeson definitely ruled out, but I suppose the fact we don't have form to go on, Martin, could that lead to, I suppose, a kind of an intriguing game as well, maybe?
Well, look at, I think Waterford and Cork, a bit like Limerick, Clare, they have a way of bringing the best out of each other, and we've seen some great games between these two counties over the last number of years. I think it's shocking that Waterford will be without those names. Pádraig Mahoney, superb player. Conor Gleeson, I saw him earlier in the year. I saw him with the club. I don't think I've ever seen the guy in the physical shape that he's in right now, and it will be a great pity if he won't play on Sunday. Cork will will be Cork, as you know, and I think score lines are going to be very high in this year's championship. And if you're looking at it straight on paper, when you see that Waterford are shot these guys, then it possibly gives an advantage to Cork. But I think a lot of these games are going to be a toss-up. I really do. If they're competitive and right down to the end, then anything can happen with them, I think, Gavin, because I think Liam Sheedy has started off, or Liam Cahill has started off really well in Waterford. I think he's trying to do the right things. He's trying to develop players. He's trying to put the foundation in place for the future. Being short these players will not make it easy for him against Cork.
Certainly won't indeed, and I suppose he's coming in. I suppose, as I say, a new manager, started the league really well. Martin, of course, Waterford without that championship win since the 2017 All-Ireland semi-final victory over Cork as well. So, Waterford will be kind of keen to get that record straight as well. And somebody was mentioning a couple of weeks ago that a win in the championship this year would be even progress, I suppose, from Waterford's point of view. And of course, you have the added benefit then win on Saturday through to a Munster final and a quarter final then in the All-Ireland to fall back on. So a lot at stake, Martin, in this game on Saturday.
Oh, sure. There's so much at stake. It's in such a short period of time. You don't get a chance to recover. And then if you lose, how do you recover? How do you mentally, psychologically recover? Is your heart in it? Is your head in it? It's then all the other stuff outside of it, comes into play as well. But look, I think Waterford have a really good base of players. I think Cahill is a serious manager. He's going to be on the sideline for a good number of years to come, I think, because his heart is really in hurling. I think he's a good fit for Waterford. The trick is, if they get over Cork, then I think they will have made real progress and they will have had a chance to get at least two further games in the championship. And that would be a great, if you go forward from it, great. But even if you're to go after those two games, you will have got, championship games into players that will need them.
Absolutely, promises to be intriguing indeed. And of course, that's the first of our two live matches here on WLR on a Saturday afternoon from Semple Stadium. Just briefly on the Leinster action, Martin, Dublin 231, Laois 23 points in Croke Park on Saturday night. Big challenge against Kilkenny next weekend, but the Dubs, of course, avenging, I suppose, last year's preliminary quarter-final defeat. So it was all about, I suppose, getting over the line and moving on from Matty Kenny's point of view, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, look, Dublin, I think I think they got caught. They didn't give Laois the respect they deserved last year. They got caught. I remember covering that game in Portlaoise. Lightning wasn't going to strike twice for them. I think Dublin are bringing, and Matty Kenny is bringing a very good base of young players. I think they will be contenders. I think it might be a step too far for them against Kilkenny because I think conditions and everything will come into their favour. They're a very, very serious outfit, as we know, for many years at this stage, Kilkenny, and I think Dublin would have to be at their best. But you can be assured that Cody will give them the absolute respect that they deserve. And if Dublin got a bit of a break and they've taken Kilkenny to the line on the last couple of occasions that they've met, then they have a chance. If Kilkenny get off to a good start in this game, then they have the big name players that can put the game away fairly quickly.
There's no doubt about that, yeah. An intriguing weekend of hurling action. And of course, just before we leave you go, Martin, mentioning the Munster Football Championship, of course, which also gets underway on Saturday night. Waterford welcoming Limerick to Fraherfield for the provincial quarter-final, and great result for Limerick there, securing promotion at the weekend with a victory over Sligo up there in Markovich Park. So Billy Lee's Chargers will be playing Division 3 football next year. Would that give them great confidence coming down to Fraherfield on Saturday night?
Well, sure, look, it's better to be going there having won something than having won nothing. Look, they had a great run in the McGrath Cup to win that. Then they've won promotion, they've won their league, their Division 4 league, and you have to think that puts them in a good place going to Waterford. Now, they will know very well, and Billy Lee will know this very well, that you're not going to be giving him prizes as he goes in the gate below in Fraherfield, because it's a tough, tight venue to play in, and Waterford will come out. They're not just going to turn up for the sake of it, and that game to me is a toss-up. Just as the same would be if Waterford were coming to Limerick. Limerick would feel, they have a great chance. And I think Waterford will feel that as well. If Limerick have to continue the development that they've shown for the last number of months, then you'd expect them to win it. But games between these counties are always tight. They're always tight, regardless whether it's Clare, Limerick and Waterford. They're teams that are in the periphery from the big guys. Their games are as important to them as Cork or Kerry. But those games, when they play each other, they can turn in a moment, and I expect it to be a very close game.
Yeah, one to look forward to indeed on Saturday night. And I suppose just to do an overall on it, Martin, it's great to, I suppose, pick up papers and that this morning and be reading about championship games and championship previews. So hopefully everything, I suppose, can stay on course over the next few weeks. And challenging time still for everyone, including the counties involved. But I suppose the importance of GAA and the importance of sport lifts the spirits as well, I suppose, in this challenging time.
Well, I remember reading in a book at one stage, and there was a line in it, and it said, sport lifts us from our tired lives. And that certainly is the case. But you have to be mindful, I suppose, also, Gavin, that it is on a lifeline. It can change. If there's going to be further testing, then there's the greater chance of, teams or players, falling foul to COVID. And I think everybody's happy to see it going, but everybody realistic enough to know that this could change in a moment. Hopefully it doesn't, because people having to see their own players play at county, to see them on TV, to see the matches going ahead, it certainly gives them something to look forward to at the weekend when everything else that we know as normal is closed down. I
think that's a nice note to end on. Martin, Kiely, many thanks for taking the call this evening. Great to get your views as always, and mind yourself.
Thanks indeed, Gavin.